Welcome to our deep dive today. We're tackling something pretty interesting, channeling and the law of one. And you've given us a really fascinating mix of sources to work with. We have personal stories, like firsthand accounts. There's a handbook on channeling. Then you threw in some physics notes, which is a curveball. And of course, chapters from the law of one itself. It feels like we're about to step into one of those, secret libraries you see in movies, full of different perspectives on the same mystery.
Yeah, it's not every day we get to bridge the gap like this
Yeah.
between someone's personal experience and what science might have to say about it, especially with channeling.
Exactly. So
Cool.
before we get lost in the stacks, maybe we should start with the basics. What exactly is channeling? I mean, kind of sounds like something out of Star Trek.
Okay, think of it this way. You're listening to a radio. The radio itself doesn't make the music right. It just receives and transmits signals from a station. That's essentially what a channel does, at least according to this handbook you gave us. They become a conduit, receiving information or energy from a non-physical source. And then they transmit it into our world.
Well, okay, so the channel isn't making things up. They're more like tuning into a specific frequency.
Yeah.
But then, who or what is sending that signal? Who's on the other end of the line?
Now that's where it gets interesting. Some channels say they connect with spiritual guides, or even deceased loved ones. Some even talk about entities from other dimensions. And of course, we have the law of one material you sent, which is all about this entity called Ra, described as a highly evolved collective consciousness.
Rah. Huh. That sounds pretty intense. But before we dive into that, I'm curious about the how of channeling. What's actually happening in a person's brain or body when they channel? This is where those physics notes come in, right?
Yeah.
They actually try to explain channeling from a scientific perspective.
Yeah, and it gets pretty technical. It talks about things like ion steering, where ions are guided by atoms in a crystal lattice. It's like imagining a tiny pinball machine, but on a microscopic level,
Ugh.
directing this flow of energy.
Hold on. Pinball machines inside us. My brain's already starting to hurt. So how does that connect to someone channeling a message? Like from a spirit or something?
Well, the notes don't have all the answers, but they suggest there might be a physical component of how information is transmitted during channeling. Almost like these unseen forces, these pinball machines at the atomic level, could be influencing how a channel picks up signals from another realm. It's a pretty wild idea when you think about it.
Yeah, it definitely challenges the idea that channeling is all mystical or psychological. But even if there's a scientific side to it, don't you still need to take a leap of faith to believe someone is actually communicating with a non-physical being?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why these personal accounts you provided are so valuable. They give us a look into what it's like to actually channel, the challenges, the doubts, the moments of awe. One account even described early attempts at channeling as sounding like a raucous symphony, emphasizing how important training and discipline are.
So it's not as simple as flipping a switch and suddenly you're chatting with angels.
Apparently not. It's more like learning a language or playing an instrument. It takes practice.
That makes me think about the risks involved. I mean, if you're opening yourself up to these unseen energies, are there dangers? I remember one of the sources mentioned something about psychic attacks.
Right. The law of one material does touch on that, describing it as a potential challenge for those who channel. They stress how important it is to maintain a strong and balanced energy field through practices like meditation and what they call spiritual hygiene.
So it's not just about receiving information, it's also about protecting yourself energetically.
Exactly. And this brings us back to the idea that channeling is a blend of the physical, mental, and spiritual. It's more than tuning into a radio station. It's about cultivating a state of being. That allows for clear and responsible communication with other realms of consciousness.
Okay, so we've laid some groundwork on what channeling is, and maybe a little bit about how it might work. But what about the why? Why would someone choose to be a channel? And what kind of impact can it have on their life? Let's hear from those who have walked this path and see what they have to say.
These personal accounts, they really highlight how transformative channeling can be. One person described it as a journey of self-discovery, leading to profound personal growth and a deeper understanding of their place in the universe.
It's like channeling becomes a mirror, reflecting their own inner world back to them, helping them connect with their purpose.
That's a great way to put it. And it seems this sense of purpose often goes beyond just the individual. A lot of channels feel called to share the information they receive, to help others awaken to their own potential, and contribute to the evolution of consciousness.
So it's not just about personal growth then. It's about serving others. That reminds me of the law of one and its focus on service to self versus service to others. Could you explain that a bit more?
So in the law of one, the entity Ra presents these as two fundamental paths of spiritual evolution. Service to self is driven by a desire for power and control. While service to others is motivated by love and compassion, it's not that one is good and the other is bad, but rather different expressions of the creator's energy.
Okay, so it's like choosing which direction to travel on this cosmic road trip.
Hmm.
But if they're both paths, what makes service to others more in line with the law of one?
Well, Ross suggests that service to others is a more efficient path towards spiritual growth and harmony. It's about recognizing that everything is interconnected and acting in ways that benefit everyone, not just yourself.
That makes me think about those ripple effects we see in nature. Like one act of kindness can create a chain reaction, spreading positivity outward.
Exactly. And this idea of interconnectedness is really central to the law of one. Ra describes the universe as this massive web of energy, where every thought, emotion, and action influences the whole.
Wow. It really makes you realize even our smallest choices can have a huge impact. But if we're all connected, how do we navigate this web of energy? Are there any guidelines or principles that can help us make choices that are in line with the law of one?
Ra offers several key principles, and one of the most important is the concept of free will. They emphasize that every being has the right to choose their own path, to learn and grow at their own pace. It's about respecting the autonomy of others, even when their choices are different from our own.
So it's not about forcing our beliefs on others or trying to make them follow a specific path. It's about giving everyone space to explore their own unique journey.
Exactly. And that ties into another important principle, the law of responsibility. Ra emphasizes that we're ultimately responsible for our own choices and their consequences. It's about taking ownership of our actions and understanding that every choice we make shapes our reality.
That's a lot of responsibility. It makes you realize we can't just blame our circumstances or other people for our situation. We have the power to choose how we respond and to create a reality that aligns with our values.
Exactly. And this brings us back to channeling as a tool for self-discovery and empowerment. By connecting with these higher realms of consciousness, we can access guidance and wisdom that can help us navigate these tough choices and create a more fulfilling life.
Okay, so we talked about the personal and ethical aspects of channeling, but what about the bigger picture? The law of one lays out this whole cosmology with different densities of consciousness
Yeah.
and a grand plan for the evolution of souls. It's a lot to process. Can you give us a simplified overview of this cosmic journey?
Imagine it like a spiral staircase, with each level representing a different density of consciousness. Right now, humans are in third density, characterized by self-awareness and developing individual identity. Raya explains that Earth is currently transitioning to fourth density, which is associated with love and understanding.
So we're on the verge of a major upgrade. Sounds exciting. But what does living in fourth density actually mean? Will we suddenly have superpowers?
Haha, not quite. Think of it more as a shift in consciousness, a move away from duality and separation, and towards unity and compassion. Ra suggests that in fourth density, empathy becomes the driving force, shaping our interactions and how society is structured. Imagine a world where decisions are made, not just from logic or self-interest, but from a deep understanding of our interconnectedness.
That sounds amazing. Like humanity is finally growing up and realizing we're all in this together. But what about those who aren't ready for that level of consciousness? What happens to them during this transition?
Ra describes a process called harvest, where souls are evaluated based on their level of spiritual evolution. Those who have reached a certain level of love and understanding are harvested into fourth density, while those who haven't continue their journey in third density, but on a different planet.
Okay, so it's like a cosmic sorting hat, placing souls in an environment that matches their growth. But this harvest thing raises some questions. Who's doing the evaluating? And what are the criteria? Sounds a little judgmental, which seems to contradict the idea of free will and unconditional love.
I see your point, but Ra emphasizes that this process isn't about judgment or punishment. It's about aligning souls with the vibrational frequency that best suits their level of development. They describe it more like a natural process, like water finding its level.
Okay, that makes me feel better. But I still wonder about the role of choice. Do we have any say in this process, or is it all predetermined?
Ra suggests our choices definitely matter. Every thought, word, and action influences our vibrational frequency and ultimately contributes to our readiness for harvest. They really emphasize the importance of aligning with love and light, not just in our beliefs, but in our actions as well.
So it's not enough to just talk the talk. We have to walk the walk. Actions speak louder than words when it comes to spiritual evolution.
You got it. And that brings us back to personal responsibility and the choices we make every moment. Ra reminds us that we're not just passive bystanders in this cosmic play. We're active participants who are co-creating our reality.
It's like we're all actors on a stage, but we also have the power to rewrite the script. That's both empowering and kind of scary.
It definitely is. And that leads us to another interesting concept from Ra, the nature of reality itself. They challenge our typical understanding of time and space, suggesting that our perception is limited by our current level of consciousness.
Okay, now we're getting into mind-bending territory.
Yeah.
Are you saying reality isn't what it seems? Is it all an illusion?
It's not quite that simple. It's more nuanced than just saying it's an illusion. Ross suggests our current reality, how we experience it right now, is limited by our third density consciousness. Imagine you're looking through a tiny window. You can only see a small part of the whole landscape outside.
So you're saying there's a bigger picture
Yeah.
that we're just not able to see yet, like hidden dimensions or something.
Exactly. Ra calls this realm beyond our perception time-space, a place where the limits of time and space, as we understand them, no longer apply.
Okay, my brain is officially fried. Time, space. So is time travel possible? Can we like bend reality with our minds?
Well, while those are fun ideas, what Ra is really talking about are the limitations of how we perceive things right now. As we grow and evolve through the densities, our awareness expands and we start to experience reality in a totally different way. Think about those optical illusions where you see one image and then suddenly a completely different image pops out.
I get it. It's like those aha moments when you suddenly understand something you've been struggling with. It's a shift in perspective that unlocks a whole new level of understanding.
That's a perfect analogy. And according to Ra, that's exactly what happens as we evolve spiritually. We shed those limiting beliefs and perceptions, and we open ourselves up to a much wider and more interconnected view of reality.
So it's not just about being a good person or doing good deeds. It's about expanding our consciousness
Mm.
and understanding what reality really is.
That's a key point in the Law of One. Ra says knowledge is power, not power over others, but the power to make conscious choices, choices aligned with love and light.
That makes me think about what we discussed earlier, about how important the channel's mindset and preparation are. It sounds like intention is super important, not just for channeling, but for everything in life.
Absolutely. All of these sources point to the power of intention. Ra even describes a process of manifestation, where our focused thoughts and desires can actually shape our reality.
Hold on, so we're not just along for the ride. We actively participate in creating our own reality.
Precisely. And that realization comes with a lot of responsibility. Our choices have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for the entire collective consciousness.
It's like we're all artists, each of us adding our own brushstrokes to the canvas of reality. And the colors we choose, the images we create, they all depend on our individual and collective choices.
That's beautifully put. And the more we choose love over fear, understanding over judgment, the more we contribute to a reality filled with harmony and beauty.
Wow, we've really gone deep in this deep dive. We talked about how channeling works, people's personal experiences, the ethical side of things, and the mind-blowing cosmology of the Law of One. So what's the big takeaway for our listeners?
I think the most important message is interconnectedness, whether it's ion steering or cosmic harvests. The core idea seems to be that we are all part of something much bigger than ourselves, and our choices matter, not just for us, but for the evolution of consciousness itself.
It's like we're all threads in this huge tapestry, each thread playing a role in the overall design. And the more we choose love, compassion, and understanding, the more beautiful that tapestry becomes.
That's right. And if this deep dive has piqued your interest, I encourage you to dig deeper into the sources yourself. There's so much more to explore.
Definitely. And as always, we want you to think about what resonated with you. What choices can you make today to align yourself with love and light? How can you contribute to creating a reality that reflects your values?
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.